Certain questions. I see Dr. Gupta essentially, Dr. Veer Pushpak Gupta essentially wants to respond to some of the questions that you've raised. Dr. Gupta, go ahead and, respond to what we here in India essentially believe that, today, what is the United Kingdom essentially thinking? What is it, this entire snobbery all about? Because at the end of the day, in terms of numbers, Dr. Veer Pushpak Gupta, let me put out some numbers for all our viewers who are tuning in right now. Sure. We are talking about India, who's vaccinated 202.57 million with both the shots and a 602.21 million in total. In comparison with the United Kingdom, which has vaccinated only 48.57 million. Now, is there an attempt, Dr. Veer Pushpak Gupta, to try and downplay the kind of vaccination drive that has been put out by the Indian government?
Well, I don't know if there's a concerted a concerted effort by the government to do this, but I do definitely know that the decision making from the British government has been completely bizarre. India is not isolated in this. Just so the viewers know that this is not just against India. I mean, if you look at the three nations that are vaccinating their populations with the highest rate of vaccines, homemade vaccines, are India, China, and Russia, and all three nations have been left out of that list. So to me, it reeks of vaccine colonialism. That's the word I would use. If you've gotten the same vaccine in the Western Hemisphere, you're good to go. But if you've gotten the same vaccine in the eastern part of the world, you're not good to go. For what reason, we don't know. There was a WHO study done about a month ago stating that there was a huge concern about counterfeiting of vaccines in India. Now, counterfeiting of vaccines is a problem anywhere in the world. I mean, I've talked about it on various news channels. And the way to get rid of that is that you use an authentic batch number of the vaccine. You link that to the person's personal information on the database, on the national database, and then you put that into your CoWIN app or your NHS app. And that's how the entire world is doing it. And I believe that's how India is doing it as well. And I don't think that's a good enough reason for Indian-made AstraZeneca vaccines to be left out of the list. Now, I understand if they have concerns about Covishield, because the data of Covishield is, personally, I haven't seen much data come out about Covishield. But not Covishield, Covaxin. But why are they concerned about Covishield? Covishield
Dr. Gupta,
is
there
made
is
in
a
Serum
data.
Institute. Yes, all I'm saying is that
Dr.
in
Gupta,
terms of the amount of data that Covaxin has compared to Covishield is not at the same comparison level. I mean, Covishield definitely has more data because it's been used in different countries. I know patients over here that have gotten Covishield and were denied to board a plane. There was a British couple that were denied to go on a plane because they had the Indian batch number of the vaccine rather than the British batch number. So I think it's a bit bizarre. Another small example I want to give you is UAE. UAE has been left out of this list, whereas Kuwait, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, all other Gulf nations have been included in the list. So there's no thinking behind it. I think there's absolutely been no decision-making policy on this particular decision, and I think it needs to be reviewed.
Dr. Dev, absolutely. Let me also bring in Dr. Gupta right now, because Dr. Maheshwari, I'll come back to you. Just give me a few seconds. Let me take this question to Dr. Gupta, who wanted to make a point when Sanju Verma was speaking. Dr. Gupta, as Dr. Bagai has essentially been talking about uniformity as far as vaccine approvals are concerned, but there seems to be the problem right now in terms of how Covaxin has not been given the emergency authorization. The approvals haven't really come in. It once again raises this question. At a time when there is vaccine deficit in many nations, are we to really play this global politics that is essentially being played?
Look, that's the reality of the world we live in. This is a political decision. Dr. Ghosh was talking about it earlier. He said it's a paperwork thing. It's not a paperwork thing. We're not fools. It's a discriminatory decision taken by the UK government. There's no doubt about it. Vaccines that have been, administered, the same vaccines, Pfizer, AstraZeneca, that have been administered in a certain country, in a developing nation, is not acceptable. But the same vaccine is acceptable in the United States and the UK and EU. So it doesn't. You can't just put this down to paperwork. Number two, diplomatic channels in India have worked before. They have worked before. I was on TV with Sanam Arora. You know, she was very vocal about the fact that India was on the red list. We were on various news channels, and diplomatic action happened, and India was taken off. India was the first country in the subcontinent to be taken off the red list. So Indian diplomatic action do work, and I think that they will work in this case. And just to come to Sanju Verma's point about the lists have disappeared, so this is a very big thing. Well, the lists have disappeared, but then now they have a new discriminatory way. You know, that if you're not vaccinated in our countries, then you're not going to be allowed in without quarantine. So I think that it's just replacing one type of discrimination with another type of discrimination. So let's not be fooled.
Right.
This is discriminatory.
Fantastic point, Dr.
It's
Gupta.
bizarre. And it needs to be rendered, and Indian diplomatic missions need to take it up, including the diplomatic mission in London.
Absolutely, absolutely. Dr. Gupta, you make a fantastic point. Let me take this to Dr. Debashish Ghosh. Dr. Debashish Ghosh, you've heard what Dr. Gupta essentially had to say. No one in this